I wrote a tweet, like right before I got to town, said, Boston, I've entered your mass hole. So
Thank you.
That's not even a good part. I've entered your mass hole so wicked gentle. You don't even know I'm here. I said, walk ashamed to the sold-out Q&A at the Coolidge. And then on Twitter, Amanda Elizabeth wrote back, does this make New Hampshire Boston's tramp stamp? This is from, I think it's Chris Chiaramella. You hear? She is here. She wrote, my fiance almost peed outside with his boyfriend while waiting for that Kevin Smith. Ew. She said you peed, dude. Outside. It's a fucking pizza parlor up there, man. Colin Solon said, time to get hammered to see Kev at the Coolidge. I'll be the fat, balding guy with glasses and shorts. Well, that was my job. And this one's from Gina Torrey. Said, I love this. I thought this was kind of cute. Waiting to see Kevin Smith at Coolidge Corner. Wife aims me, AOL Instant Messenger. Kevin Smith look-alike in upper crust, but nowhere near as large. If it turns out to be him, I'm totally telling you she said that. But ironically, I wasn't upper crust earlier, and I was texting my wife, and this is what I texted my wife. About to get some eats, but this crazy bitch keeps staring at me. Anyway. Yes.
Hi, I'm Miss Jason Mewes, and I was wondering if you could tell us how he's doing. I saw him on your TV show, The Comic Book Men, when he was at the comic shop. But can you really tell us how he's doing, and does he have a regular source of income?
Yes, me. He's actually doing well. I mean, if you've only seen him on the show, I guess it would appear like, motherfucker's broke. Playing with toys and stuff, I'm broke. He was kind of like climbing it up a little bit. He just has made more money this year than I think he's made in any year prior. For the last year and change, well, actually, it's coming up on just a year now. We've been out on the road with Jane and Silent Bob. We built this little podcast called Jane and Silent Bob. We used to do the Smodcast, old 50-seat theater. And it went from there up to the John Lovitz Podcast Theater. We workshopped it. I mean, we didn't think we were workshopping it, really, because of the fucking show. But the more we did it in front of people, the more streamlined it got, the more it was like, oh, there are moving parts, and this is how it all fits together, and there's a structure and shit. And then we started taking it out on the road. And so those shows fetch a fucking nice price tag. They pay, like, we just went over to the UK, sold out every show that we were there. We sold out every show except for the one in Adelaide of this Australian James Silent Bob Get Old tour that we do next month. So his sobriety, which is what the podcast is about, it's all predicated on what do they call that? An intervention, if you will. Every week we kind of sit down. He tells us about his drug abuse life. Tells us like horrible, fucking heartbreaking stories. The wonderful thing about that show is you'll be in a bar watching it. It's weird. We do an intervention podcast in a bar. We're drinking. I go on like drugs and alcohol ruin my life. They're like, tell us, buddy, tell us. 2 more. This is heartbreaking. And it's fun because he'll see these wonderful racketeers become a fantastic storyteller and shit over the years. Back in the day, like I'd bring him up on stage for a Q&A. If you see some of the like Evening With or Evening With Two, you bring him up and I'm like, hey, Jason, and he gets a welcome of like Christ in Jerusalem and shit. But he's got no follow-up act. He's not like, I'm gonna die and come back in 3 days. He would just be like, stooge, hump a couch and then sit there for 2 hours. You'd see him become a better speaker. Like over the course of 6 to 8 months, he just went around Canada doing Q&As at colleges and shit like that. So much so that at the end of the year, I guess they give out an award for like fucking public speakers. And he got it. And he really brought it home and rubbed it in my fucking face. Because he knows I'm a huge Canada-phile, man. Like, I love Canada and shit. So the idea of winning an award for public speaking in Canada, I didn't know such a thing existed. But I was like, how the fuck do you know? I don't want to have 10. You know? So he got very good at it. And then we were doing some shows at Smodcast. So he had fallen off the wagon it's coming up on 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. Really hardcore, man. Probably more than 3 years ago. 2 years ago, it's coming up on his 2 years of clean sobriety. So I guess it's about 3 years he fell off the wagon. Got back into fucking oxys and then back into heroin as well. Spent all his fucking loot behind his wife's back. So you can hear it all on the Jason Bob Goodall podcast. Pretty crushing story. A lot of them are. When you listen to the show, you're watching go highs and lows like this. It's such a weird fucking live experience because people come out and go, hey, first off, some people get there. Like, we found this out in England. This was so fucking strange. Podcast called Jason Bob Goodall. Me and Mewes just sit there talking to each other. Some cats in London, we showed up, man, and they were like tweeting after the show going, they weren't even in costume. Like, they literally thought we were going to come out as Jason.
And Silent Bob talked.
Yeah, and I was like, we have a show we sold some tickets for, we got to fill a spot, man. What do you say you and I sit down and do a show together? Do Jay and Bob, like a conversation. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, for years I've been telling you, go out there and talk about the heroin. You talk about everything else. You pull your dick out in front of strangers, man. But you won't tell people about the heroin. Why? And he's like, because it's gross. When people know you fucking poke needles in your skin, they think it's gross. And I was like, yeah, but to name it is to claim it, man. You go out there and fucking tell people, I did this shit, but there's more people than just us keeping an eye on you. Suddenly you got more people to be responsible too, or people can keep their eye on you, so to speak, or something like that. And he would never do it. And at this point, he was like, you know what, okay, let's do that. And he goes, can it be like I'd written a short series of blogs about his life, kind of a little biography, called Me and My Shadow, that was in this book called what was that one? My Boring Ass Life. It's from the blog. So he was like, can we do that? Like, what if we just took My Boring Ass Life and we kind of told them, every time motherfuckers drop their look.
So only recently have I started listening to Smodcast, and I've been eating that up like in a month. I've listened to like 100 episodes. Scott Mosher, by the way, he's hilarious. So if you had to choose,
Scott is very fucking funny. This is the joy of Smodcast for me is I get to share people that I've always thought were really fucking funny, the people that influence me and shit. And Mosher has been a comedic genius forever, just quiet. He's always kind of sitting there ready to go and shit. Smodcast kind of gets to shine a light, put a microphone on, and you get to hear the dude's fucking really, really funny. He's got a wicked sense of humor.
especially with a British accent.
He is. He's so good with that British accent.
So if you had to choose, if you were forced to choose between being a director or just a podcast. Really?
Oh God, yeah. Jeez. Directing, man, is, don't get me wrong, directing's nice, and a lot of people, I'm sure there's some would-be filmmakers here who are like, you fucking prick, but I did it, man. I'm coming up on having done it for 20 fucking years. You do anything for 20 years, man, as a job. I'm not talking, I don't want my wife to be like, what did you say? Career-wise, 20 for 20 years is a long fucking time, and especially in the arts. In the arts, you always want to keep it kind of fresh for yourself. You want to be passionate about it. You know, and for a while in my career, I wasn't passionate about filmmaking. Filmmaking was just something I did. I had passion for it. I didn't fucking like put in a half-assed effort or something. But the same fire that lit the career didn't exist in the middle. Like, you know, you get to Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy, those scripts dogma, because I was a kid sitting around for 21 years dreaming about shit. Not necessarily dreaming about making movies, but dreaming, having all these weird thoughts. And then I see Richard Linklater movie Slacker, and I'm like, holy shit, maybe I'll try film. I never thought of that. I'm like, this dude's making a movie. He ain't in New York. He ain't in fucking Los Angeles. He's in Nowheresville, fucking Texas, man. Turns out it was Austin. Thanks to the fucking, you know, New Jersey educational system. I didn't know that was the capital of Texas. Or did I know that, you know, that huge arts community there, big college town, big city and whatnot. So, and I'm kind of glad I did, because if I'd known that, like, well, Richard Linklater's from Austin, of course he has access to creative people, cameras, shit like that. It's just like New York or Los Angeles to some degree. If I'd thought that, I wouldn't have tried it. You know, I would have saw Slacker and just been like, oh, that's what other fucking people do, man, that's cool, well, good for him, or something like that. But instead, I watched it with an audience that night. They were going crazy for it, and I enjoyed it very, very fucking much. But they were laughing hysterically, like literally knee slapping, hitting their fucking legs and shit, like you read about. And I was like, man, I think it's funny. These cats really think this is funny. But if they think this is funny, I think I can make a really fucking funny movie. And I got a lot of weird thoughts. So boom, that pushed me toward. And that starts a fire that's Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, even up to Dogma. And then by the time you get to Jang Silent Bob Strike Back, which is a movie I absolutely love, but that's a movie that's clearly made by somebody who hasn't lived real life in like 5 years. It's a movie about making movies. You look at those other movies and stuff, they're informed by life. They're informed by things I've done, who I was, play people I've met and shit like that. By the time I get to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, it's just me writing fan fiction about my own characters. And that's great, but that's not the dude who saw Slacker going, oh, if I don't make this movie, I'll fucking die. That's a guy who has so much privilege. He's like, oh, if I don't make this movie, I'll make another movie. That's what they make me do now. And I heard myself in interviews many times say shit like this, like, film used to be my passion, but now it's my career. It's what I do for a living and stuff. And young Kev Smith would like to fucking come forward in a time machine and punch old fat Kev Smith in the nuts, man. Number one, for getting this fat. Number two, because like that's not the sentiment that got this started. You know, I realized about midway through, I was career management more than anything else. I wasn't creating or pushing the edge of the envelope. I was just sitting there going, how do I get a movie made? What's the easiest way to get one of my ideas made? Like, I'd run out of the passion stuff, so I'd start looking at other things. It's not unfair. Filmmakers, particularly writer-directors, earn twice as hot because you're generating the fucking story. When you're just a director of somebody else's script, you're bringing a vision to it, man. You didn't come up with that world. You read a cool script, and you're like, great, man, I think I can bring this to life. When you're a writer-director, it's bringing the world to life and then trying to put it to life on film and shit. It takes twice as much work. My theory is you burn twice as fucking hot and shit like that. It's burning the candle at both ends. Sooner or later, you get right to the middle of shit. But it makes a lovely life up until that moment. Until you get in career management mode. That's when you're just like, wait a second, how do we slow down the burning of this candle and make it produce more light than we can charge people for? So you're thinking about your job. It is your job. It's how I put a roof over my head, how I fucking pay for my kid, pay for my wife, you know, it's kind of clothes on my wife's back, I'll pay for her. But it's, you know, it became the thing that was the source of my income, not just like, oh my God, I want to make movies so fucking bad. And so when I realized that, I kind of got sad, man, because the idea of art, I started to stop thinking about myself as an artist. I see so many interviews where I'm like, oh, I'm not an artist, man, I just make those fucking dope movies and shit. And when I first got into it, I was an artist. Felt like an artist, wanted to be an artist, earned like a fucking artist and shit. In the middle, suddenly I was more about a careerist, kind of like keeping it going. I'm here now, got my foot in the door, got my body in the room, how do I fucking stay in the room? How do I tell their stories through my fucking prism so I can do stuff that's like, all right, I'll make a Sacker movie, but it'll be my version of it, like Jersey Girl. Or I'll make, you know, a fucking studio comedy, but it'll be my version of it, like Zach and Mary in the corner, always trying to square peg, round hole it and shit. Did that for a while, but just wasn't happy. One day on Zach and Mary, I realized, wow, I'm done. Like, I looked at Zach and Mary, and I love that movie, I think it's funny, but to me, that movie is not me saying anything fucking new whatsoever. That movie is literally me being bereft of ideas going, I don't have anything to talk about, so I'm just going to steal the Clerks origin story and redo it and tell my own story about how we made Clerks through a porn prison where Scott Mosier is a girl that I had to fuck. So you realize that, you're just like, oh man, that's not cool. The kid who saw Slacker and was just like, I want to make movies and shit, I want to be like this guy. He didn't have that movie in his head, and I realized I was just sitting there treading water. Not saying that the shit's bad by any stretch of the imagination. I always played it with as much passion as I could, but it didn't come from a pure, artistically pure place and whatnot, because I was dependent on the income. At a certain point, I was like, this is what I do for a living. You have to produce something every year or 2 years, or else everyone's going to starve. So at that point, I was like, I gotta go. I can't do this anymore, because I wasn't that fucking kid anymore. And you know, we all grow and change and shit, but that's how I got here. Everything I have in life now came from the moment of me seeing Slacker and being like, I want to do that, I want to be an artist too. And then I got into a point where I stopped being an artist. It was my career. Like I said, it was a fucking job. You can't feel that way about your art. You gotta love your fucking art passionately, man. You guys gotta burn fucking bright and hot for it. You gotta feel about your art the way you feel about, if you're a fucking girl, that dude that you loved in college, man. Or if you're a fucking guy like me, that chick that you absolutely fucking adored in high school, the chick that changed your life. You hung out with all these dudes and shit. One day you started hanging out with her, you just stopped hanging out with your boys and shit, because everything she said was interesting and amazing. Every thought she had was fucking new, it was vibrant. You wanted to wake up next to this person, but you couldn't because you lived with your fucking parents until you're in high school. But you just want to be around this person all the time, man, and constantly and whatnot. You go out to eat, you go to the fucking movies and shit. She fucks like a demon, and if she doesn't fuck because it's high school, she at least gets a mean hand job. You love being with her every second of the day. Your parents are like, you're spending too much time with this person. I'm like, bullshit, no such thing. They're like, you shouldn't curse. And I was like, I'm going to see her. I love her. It's like endless love every day, man. Like a Brooke Shields movie from the fucking early 80s. And you hang out with her. She likes to do shit you like to do. She reads comics. likes going to fucking movies, weird fucking movies and shit. She'll even go eat at the places you like to eat. She loves Denny's. How rare it is to find a fucking bitch that's like, I love moons over my head. And then you're sitting there in the diner with her and fucking Denny's, man, eating, putting it away and shit, and you're fucking cutting the yolks out, just eating the whites and putting it with the potatoes, the shredded fucking potatoes onto one spoon. You gotta balance it so it doesn't fall off. Off the top of my head. And then and you look across and she's looking at you like it was real fucking sexy look in her eyes, man. Just kind of looking at you almost admiringly. You're like, what? Do I have something on my face? And she's just like, let's go fuck in the bathroom. And you're like, are you fucking serious, man? We're in Denny's. She's like, so, let's go fuck in the bathroom. I was like, we can't, man. The old couple is like looking at us. And you look over at the old couple, they are staring at you. They're about 70 years old couple, man and woman, and fucking they're both looking at you because they think they heard what she said. It's just loud enough. And they're like, F word? And they're both looking at us, seeing where the story goes next and whatnot. You can't do this. Fucking old people looking at us. She goes, look, I'm gonna be in the bathroom waiting to get fucked. I hope it's you. She goes to the fucking bathroom and you're sitting there going, oh my God, I can't fucking do this, man. We're in Denny's. I'm not even done eating yet. People are looking. The old couple's looking. You look over at the old couple, man, the woman's scowling at you disapprovingly. You look at the husband, he's like, go. So you fucking get up, man, you go to the bathroom and shit, you look in the boys' room, she ain't gonna make it that easy. You fucking look in the back girl's bathroom, there is her feet under the stall. You go in through the door, go into the stall, close that, you put your leg under the fucking stall and kind of pin that door fucking closed so the ladies come in and fucking all of a sudden you're banging some chicken. You fuck hard in the Denny's bathroom. You don't even fuck, you get fucked. That's how amazing she is. She's like, just sit on the handicap accessible toilet and get fucked, man. And you do, and you fucking bust a nut, it's amazing, and that's how you have to feel about your art, man.